there everybody and welcome to yet another video. I just needed to cover this because it popped up and I saw it and I read the article at cbr.com and I thought to myself, yeah, I'm probably right once again. It concerns the upcoming Gollum movie, which I have covered several times in my videos, as I have covered pretty much in each and every single Tolkien adaptation, and whether it be those that already came out or those that will come out. And those of you who have been following me for quite some time know that this channel grew thanks to my coverage of all things Tolkien, and I stopped because people are annoying, and it's really one and the same thing, covering that which presents itself as being an adaptation of Tolkien's works, but in fact they are not. I mean, there is a plethora of videos on my channel that you can check out, not only Rings of Power reviews, but also I have made a lot of videos about Peter Jackson's adaptations and also Tolkien lore videos. The only thing I really refused to cover in depth was the War of the Rohirrim, which once again proved that I was right about adaptations. And I'm not a huge fan of adaptations, but at the same time, I am willing to admit that certain adaptations are great. Because what is an adaptation? It is simply a transferring of a story from one medium to another medium. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And some stories are more fit to be adapted than others. Let's just take Marvel Comics and DC Comics as examples of stories and universes, quote-unquote, IPs, that are very much fit to be adapted. Why? Well, because those comic books have been coming out for, in many cases, more than 80 years now. And throughout this time, they have been written and drawn by a lot of people, a lot of writers and artists, and there have been many stories, very different from each other, but also there is the multiverse, right, in both of these brands. You've got Marvel multiverse and DC multiverse as well. On top of that, at the beginning of the 1990s, there was kind of a hint upon the multiverse starting. The Elseworld stories, which were one-and-done stories, like completely different from the main line, like, for example, Mike Mignola's Dark Batman stories, which I enjoyed very much indeed. So you can make a million Batman films, each and every one of them different, right? And each and every one of them, Batman could be a different person, as well as, for example, James Gordon. So that's fine, it's all right, but Tolkien was a man who wrote his books, full stop. There's one vision. And I don't really like anybody else later coming and saying, well, we can tell his stories better, like Amazon did with the Rings of Power. And they didn't even tell Tolkien's stories. What they did, and what seems to be the trend these days, is taking bits and pieces from his texts, like the appendices to the Lord of the Rings. Take a name, a place name, a fact here and there, just put it in the film, but build your own thing around it, be it good or bad, usually bad. And the same thing is the War of the Rohirrim. The story of Helm Hammerhand is covered in the appendices to Lord of the Rings. I think it's in the Appendix B, but I made a video about that, 2 or 3 even. I didn't review the film, but I have read aloud the entire passage of Helm Hammerhand in some of my videos. They're on my channel. If you want to watch them, go and watch them. They are there, public. And so the same thing, and mark my word, you can mark this video, save this video, made August the 11th, 2025. Mark my words, I will be right, I will be proved right once again, that the same thing will happen to the Gollum movie and movies, because apparently there are going to be more of them. So there is a sentence in this paragraph, or well, there's a couple of paragraphs in this article, and I will read out a couple of paragraphs up until the point that suggests that I will be right. So first, what it's supposed to be is, once again, milking Tolkien's stories and using characters that everybody in the world already knows. My grandma, who has never read any of the Tolkien's books, both of my grandmas, they know Gollum. They know who Gollum is. They know he says, "My precious," right? So he is, at this point, as recognizable as, for instance, I don't know, Darth Vader, maybe a little bit less. Might have been an over-exaggeration, but he's a very recognizable character. Normies know who Gollum is and Gandalf is. So that's why they are making it. So if you are hoping that they will ever make niche stories as adaptations, for example, the story of Beren and Luthien, which is still niche because normies don't know who Beren and Luthien are. Tolkien fans know, and fake Tolkien fans know as well, but normies don't. And who do you make adaptations for? Normies. So that's why they are making Gollum movie. As if he was one of the most interesting characters of all the Tolkien stories, which honestly he isn't. But let's just read out the article, and then I will conclude by what my point about it being the same as the War of the Rohirrim is, and the Rings of Power. Because, people, if you think you can still trust Peter Jackson, Philippa Boyens, and Fran Walsh, I mean, you could trust them 25 years ago, but not anymore. The Lord of the Rings movie franchise just took a big step forward. The next live-action Lord of the Rings movie just received some exciting news from Warner Brothers. The next installment in the blockbuster franchise, once again making Lord of the Rings into a franchise, is something that is absolutely against anything that Tolkien would have wanted. The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, is not set to be released until 2027, but things appear to be moving in the right direction. Per IGN, the CEO of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, said they have a great script for the upcoming movie that will star Andy Serkis, who is reprising his role as the titular Gollum, Smeagol. Serkis is also directing the movie. Zaslav made the comments during a financial call and said that The Lord of the Rings is one of the big tentpoles at Warner Brothers, along with franchises like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Harry Potter. Once again, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, very fine to be adapted in different ways. Things like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, not so much, but at least in the case of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling still lives, and if she is okay with Warner Brothers changing things in her stories, that's up to her, man. I am not judging her for that. She's alive, she's free to do whatever she wants with her stories. Tolkien isn't, and neither is Christopher Tolkien. There is nobody to defend Tolkien, nobody to take care of his legacy in a respectful way. We've got a great script on The Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson that we're moving forward on, and we'll be giving you more detail on that, Zaslav said. The Hunt for Gollum is set to begin shooting in early to mid-2026 and is slated for a December 17, 2027 release. Peter Jackson, who directed all three of the Lord of the Rings films as well as the Hobbit trilogy, is returning to Middle-earth as a producer on the Hunt for Gollum. The screenplay is being written by Philippa Boyens, Phoebe Gittins, Fran Walsh, and Artie Papagogu. Sorry, don't know how to pronounce the name. Gittins and Papa blah blah were writers on the 2024 animated film The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which took a character from the appendices to the Lord of the Rings, a character that didn't have a name, and made a movie about that character. I'm talking about Hera, which isn't even an Anglo-Saxon name. And we all know that ideally all the Rohirrim should have Anglo-Saxon, or close to Anglo-Saxon names, if you know what I mean, because they are basically Anglo-Saxons. Never mind. Warner Brothers previously stated that Hunt for Gollum is set to be the first of two new Lord of the Rings movies from Jackson, Boyens, and Walsh. Boyens previously told the playlist that the Hunt for Gollum would be now, pay attention, bridging film and the story we wanted to tell. So what does that mean? Is it bridging what? Bridging film and the story we wanted to tell. So it should be adapting the story that Gandalf told Frodo, that they traveled with Aragorn and tried to capture Gollum so that the enemy doesn't capture him first. And that's it. That's like basically it. That's what they want to make. So inevitably, the movie will take place after Bilbo Baggins' 111th birthday and before the Mines of Moria, of course. Inevitably, they will have to make up a lot of stuff. So they took a factoid from Tolkien's books and they are making their own stuff about that. I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Absolutely not interested in watching anything of that sort. Once again, if I want to enjoy Tolkien stories, I'll grab the books and I'll read them. Not interested in any more adaptations at all. Nor do I see myself watching that film at all. Like, I haven't even reviewed, nor am I going to review The War of the Rohirrim. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think, and that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.